Thank you, Steve. Now, the vehicle coming round at the moment is the end result of that initial surge of production. This is the M5 Stuart. Now, the Americans famously named it the Honey. The problem was it had relatively poor protection, and the gun on there is the standard American anti-tank gun, the 37mm, which made it really range on engines moved on to the use of aircraft production. Now, to deal with this perception that it's like the tank, engineered down to about 20 tons. So although you've got the firepower, you've still got relatively modest protection. So the crews. Okay, so the broken place of soul of the show again. This is the tank the Americans wanted to build while they were building those light tanks, the M3s and the M5s. This is the M4 Sherman. A radial engine, a continental radial, you can hear it popping away there. That's got an aeroplane engine anyway. It was designed as a 30-ton vehicle for easy shipment. That limited the amount of upgunning, upgrading you could do, but continually. Now, was the Sherman atomic weapon? Was it a monster? Well, the answer is some of the early ones suffered from problems through poor ammunition stowage. By the time we get to the Shermans were mechanically reliable, they were relatively fast, easy to maintain in the field, and perhaps the most important thing about the Sherman is there was always another one. If your tank was knocked out after D-Day, for instance, if your tank was knocked out and you were lucky enough to get out of there alive, horse-drawn wagons. The Americans were producing 50,000 Shermans. The Germans produced 6,000, very nearly. Panthers, and a shade over 1,300 Tiger ones. So there she is. We've left her dressed overall, as the Navy would say, to give you an idea of what a tank would have looked like in combat. People will say, Mr. Dick, no, it didn't work like that. They're there to defeat the sort of hollow-charged anti-tank rounds like Panzerfaust, Panzerschreck. So, there we go. Now, coming on.
85mm, the size of the hole at the end of the barrel. T-34 starts the war, or rather in 1939 it started to be built with a much smaller gun, the 76mm gun. Still powerful, still much bigger than what was on the German tanks at the time. In the middle of the war, after the Battle of Kursk, the Russians decide, should we build a brand new tank, the T-44? They start looking at that, but they realise, why not just put a bigger gun on a new turret and still basically keep the factories going with the T-34 variants. And that's what we're looking at here, this later war version. This is the big way. Loses enormous numbers of the tanks in the first 6 months. They've just started getting these T-34s into the armoured user on Lend-Lease as well, anything to keep them going, and they start building these tanks really crudely, as simply as they can, get them off the production line, again back in, so they're going to be fighting again, and they work their way forward. Be careful with the Russians and the Soviet stuff. We always just think it's numbers and crudity. They've got a very sophisticated system how they're going to use with artillery, infantry, and of course large numbers of tanks. They build the T-44 thinking it'll last in combat about 6 weeks is on average, so they know that. So once that first range of tanks is knocked out, don't worry, here's the next lot to keep going with.
Thank you, David. Well, without sounding facile, you've seen some wonderful, wonderful tanks already today, but for a lot of you, I suspect this is the moment you have been waiting for. I don't think our secret that we've been keeping for the last few weeks is safe. So we have today not one tiger, but two for you. We have got Tiger 131, our own, and we also have the King Tiger, the Königs Tiger, Tiger 2, from our friends at Saumur, the Musée de Blinde, the French Armour Museum. Now, looking at King Tiger to start with, the Königs Tiger, that is a beast of a machine. That weighs 68 tons. The armour on the front is 150 millimetres thick, but it's also sloped back at 50 degrees. Now the whole thing with that, since they built the Tiger 1, they've learned a few lessons. Tiger 2, they have copied the T-34 that you've already seen. Simple terms, if it really tries, that can put a round through frontal armour of a Sherman or a T-34 at a range of 3 kilometres, 3,000 metres. That is a massive, heavy gun. Crew of 5 reasonably inside it is reasonably roomy. It is, as you can see, it's a big tank. Now the problem is with all this German heavy armour is it's very, very difficult to build. They never got the hang of the field. The average serviceability of a King Tiger probably around about 59%. With something like a Sherman, with a much better logistic chain, lots of training and maintenance, it's more like 80%. So the tank that's out of action an awful lot of the time is really not going to do you a lot of good. Now the predecessor to the King Tiger is of course Tiger 1. Now, look over there. This is a wonderful moment. This is the first time, probably since the end of World War II, that King Tiger and Tiger 1, and we've got our lovely little Panzer III there, it's the first time these two Tigers have actually run together. So that is a wonderful thing to see. 2 Tigers for the price of 1. Now we already talked about the King Tiger. But Tiger 1 wasn't too shabby either. They're both what's called Durchbruchswagen. They are both heavy breakthrough tanks. style. They're both heavy breakthrough tanks. Now this is a concept that goes back to the mid-1930s, 1935, and the idea is it is a heavy tank that will punch a hole in the enemy lines that can then be exploited by lighter armour, like the Panzer III about it, but it's not until the Wehrmacht goes into the actually becomes serious. It's at that point where Germany starts encountering ships like T-34 and KV-1, and they realise they actually need something that they need to get a major gun, and they've got, and it's loaded with that gun, they have got the K-36 and they need a platform to put that on. So either you've got what's called a stopgap, but Tiger 1 is put together fairly rapidly. It is a mishmash design potential. The turret comes from Brook. It's designed for a Porsche tank, but they put it all together and they've got Tiger 1. That enters the fray in 1942. On the Eastern Front and later in North Africa. Now Tiger 1 is superb in itself. It's got 100mm armor on the front, and although the Tiger 1 88 isn't as powerful as the Tiger 2 gun, you can still put a round through that Sherman or that T-34 100 Tiger 1s. So this is the Tiger that causes consternation on the battlefield in Allied tank crews. Now you've already got Tiger 1. It's a very, very good heavy tank. Why in the middle of a war, with all the disruption that would cause, do you want to do an upgrade? Why, when you've already got Tiger 1, do you then build Tiger 2? I think the simple answer is that Tiger 1, in the German Army's eyes, it might be well armoured, but once the Tiger 1 starts encountering things like the T-34-85, the one just behind me, and the 17-pound round Sherman Firefly, it is not invulnerable. So when they're thinking about Tiger 2, they're actually thinking about a tank that will effectively last into the medium term, probably the next 5 to 7 years. The problem with both of them, I'd have to say, is they've both effectively got the same engine. They've both got the Maybach HL230, and the other problem is there aren't very many. The whole thing about it, 50,000 T-34s. They may not be quite as good, they may not be quite as well armoured, they may not have the punching power of either the Tigers, but when you can send 5 or 10 Shermans or T-34s out, the solution, the conclusion is going to be obvious. The remaining tanks, the US tanks and the T-34, are going to give you another chance to have a look. Just see the Tigers go around, just make a mental comparison to these fast, light tanks, speed, reliable, sure. Nothing's quite going full speed, but these are a lot. T-34, just behind me. When she moves off, she's going to do another circuit. You might have noticed that that's a very difficult tank to drive. Tiger, very, very light on the steering. Otto Currier said driving a Tiger was like driving a car. The American tanks, similar. T-34, frankly, is horrible. multiply their effect. If you think about it, you have just seen just about one finishing remark about the T-34. It's a hard to group, it's difficult to drive, it's unbelievably heavy on controls, it doesn't have a turret basket, so the crew end up going around with the gun. And it's said that the most treasured possession of red